For so many people, they're just so stuck in their minds all day. And if we could just learn why it is we're going through it, what it is that we're doing to get us into it, and how it is we can get ourselves out, that could be something that could really just change our lives. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about all those ideas about what it is we can do to stop thinking negatively and be able to just move on with our life with the way we want to be moving. Welcome back, and if you're new to the channel, my name is Bennett. I'm here to share some ideas that have helped me move the needle just a little bit, and I hope you find them beneficial. For me personally, I know there have been times in my lives where I've been so negative and I've just been in my head so much that I wasn't able to move forward. I wanted to see certain success, I wanted to be able to move forward, I wanted to be able to be resilient, but I just wasn't able to. Then I started to get curious about why it is I was negative and then what it is that I could do to get out of those mindsets. And that's why the first place we need to be starting is the why. You see, if we don't understand why it is we're doing it, then how is it possible that we can actually get out of it? So when it comes to the why, we have to really start to understand that it's really our egos talking. And what we could start to do is really recognize that, hey, you know what? I don't have to let my ego take over. And if we can start to understand our ego a little bit, then we could shed some light in terms of what it is we can start to do. You see, our egos are really there to protect us. They want the best for us. So whenever it is that somebody does something to us, our egos want to outshine and say, hey, you know what? You are worth it. You should have let that guy cut you off on the highway. You should go cut him off again. And what we have to realize is that it's really not that simple, because on the one hand, our ego is there to help us, but on the other hand, we can't let our ego be driving the car. And for so many of us, we end up going through so many negative things throughout our lives that all of a sudden we let that ego step in just a little bit. But what we have to realize is that the ego is just like an older brother. You see, as a brother who's trying to protect their younger brother, the older brother is going to do certain things, maybe even irrational things, just so they can get their point across. But what we have to realize is that if we're going to allow our egos to take over, that is just going to hurt us and our situation. For so many of us, we let our egos take the driver's seat, and because of that, we keep getting to all these accidents. We keep getting to these negative thoughts. We keep thinking about the things that we don't want to be thinking about, and then not able to move ourselves forward. The second idea that we have to talk about is the what. You see, what is going on after our egos take the driver's seat? And what's interesting is that on the one hand, we have our egos there to protect us, but on the other hand, all it's doing is it's just feeding the beast. You see, the way I like to look at it is like there's this little monster on our shoulders. And the more we think about the negativity, the more we feed this beast of negativity, all that's going to happen is it's just going to grow. It's one of the reasons why so many people get such anxiety, because they allow this anxiety monster to grow so much. So even when it comes to something that is so irrational, for them, it's something that is real. And I feel for those people. I myself had anxiety, and I know other people who suffer a tremendous amount. But what we have to understand is that the more we feed this beast, the bigger off this monster is going to be. And that's why so many people get stuck within this negativity. You see, because they can't hold themselves from thinking about all the negativity, and therefore this monster keeps growing and growing and growing. And unfortunately, you can't just kill the monster right away, and you have to slowly break out of it. But because you slowly break out of it, that's how we get to our how. And you might be saying, Bennett, that's nice. So you're saying I have to stop feeding this beast in order to get my anxiety levels, my nervous levels, my negativity levels down? And the answer is yes. But the question is, how do you not do something? The question really need to ask ourselves is, how do you not think of something? You see, if I told you not to think of a purple cow, what are you going to think about? Of course, a purple cow. So what are we supposed to do? And that gets us to our technique of the how. And the how technique is scratching the CD. And what I mean by scratching the CD is that we have to start to understand that if we want to be able to work on our mindset, to be able to take an idea and not think about it, we have to put this idea onto something in our imaginations to allow ourselves to not move forward by thinking about it. So I don't know if you've ever been through this experience, but have you ever been on a coach bus watching a DVD? Or maybe when you were younger, you're watching a DVD, and if you're young enough that you don't know what a DVD is, it was a little disc that you used to put into a machine, and that used to play a movie for you. And what used to happen was a bunch of times, if people didn't take care of their CDs, there used to be a scratch inside of it. And if there was a scratch on the CD, a lot of times the movie would not play. And it would be very frustrating if you're in the middle of a movie and then all of a sudden the movie would just stop. It wouldn't just stop, it would play the last second over and over and over again. And it would be really, really annoying. But luckily, we could now use all those negative experiences we had with those DVDs and say, hey, you know what? I could be doing something different. I had the ability to take that experience and to put it into something that could really change my life. And what we want to try to do is we want to try to take that imagination, that negative thought, that anxiety that we have. We want to put it on this DVD, on this CD. And if you could close your eye for a second and just imagine what's going on over here. You're playing this story and it's going around this DVD. And if you could start to imagine a scratch in the DVD. So when you start to think about this anxiety or this negative thought, all that's going to happen is that it's going to stop. It's not going to be able to continue. Because what's interesting about these thoughts that we have is that the more we think about them, the worse they get. And the more worse they get, the more we think about them. But what we have to try to do is we have to try to stop ourselves in our tracks. Understand that we could take these ideas and put them onto something that could be so helpful for us. For so many people, they don't realize that we can start to change that imagination. Because on the one hand, we have the imagination of everything falling apart and all the negative aspects. But just as much as we have that control, we have the control of focusing on something like a CD to allow ourselves to scratch it, to make sure that we're going to stop those thought processes. And what's interesting is once we're able to scratch that CD 2 or 3 times about that negative thought the next time we get it, what's interesting is that we're able to stop thinking about that idea. Our brains just end up focusing on something else. And if we can start to realize that that could be something that could be really powerful. Or the next time you start to get anxious, recognize you're able to focus on the CD, look to scratch it in your mind, and don't let it play. Don't let it finish the story for you. And slowly but surely, your mind is going to stop feeding this feeling. And the more you stop feeding it, the smaller it's going to get. So you're not going to be thinking about it as much. It is going to take a lot of self-control, but it's going to be so worth it. For so many people that I've worked with, they have such a hard time with anxiety, with these nerves. All they have to do is pause and scratch the CD. It's something that you can even practice now with something random. Start thinking about something and try not to think about it by scratching your CD. It could be something that could be so life-changing and really get you out of that negative, dark place that you don't want to be in. You have that ability. It's going to take a lot of self-control, but it's something that can be so worth it in the end. And what's interesting is that for a lot of people, they might be having all these negative thoughts. But on the other hand, maybe it's just a lack of confidence, or maybe it's a lack of self-doubt that they're going through. So make sure to take a look at this next video where I talk about whether you should be raising your self-confidence or lowering your self-doubt.